Okay, so it's day 3 of 31 of me making these videos. It really is so easy to not want to make these, and it's so easy for me to make excuses not to. I was making quite a few just before I started recording this. But I wrote a few notes of things I want to talk about today. Let's take a look. So I'll start with, I'll make sure that this video that I make today, and hopefully actually as I sort of put some structure into these videos, hopefully it means that I don't end up spending 30 minutes. Well, I think after I finished editing the video, I think it was about 27, 28 minutes of me rambling and trying to explain things in a very discombobulated way. I'll try and make sure, well, hopefully today, having a video that has been structured to an extent, it means that I spend a little bit less time actually talking when I don't need to, or saying the same thing 3 times. Because I did actually edit out quite I did edit out quite a lot yesterday of me just saying the same thing 3 times in a slightly different way. When if I just have it all kind of ready, and I spent about 5 minutes just before setting up today, just before pressing record, just sort of putting in some notes, adding some notes to what I had written on my break today at work. But yeah, I'll just get into it. So yesterday in the video that I made, I talked about this unviable attachment to what and how I perceive myself. And that isn't good, that's bad, that's something that I should be wanting to change. And I realized yesterday, while, as I was talking into the camera, that that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I need to stop being so, having it feel so unnatural. That's what I'm looking for. It feels unnatural to want to make that change. And that's more than reasonable enough, or at least I believe I understand that, and I hope I made some sense in the video that I made yesterday trying to explain that. I also need to stop putting myself down a little bit like that, sort of downplaying what I've said and how I've said it. To myself it made sense. More than good enough with these videos. But to add on to what I talked about yesterday and the actions I said I would take today, with how I interact with others, how I show up to work, how I behave in work, how I interact with people that I work with, and how I leave work as well. So a few things that I sort of made a note of today while I was on my lunch break. And the first part of my day, it was really easy for me to implement these things because I was spending a lot of time working with different people. And then the second half of the day, I was kind of left to my own devices, left on my own. And it meant that I didn't actually spend too much time interacting or engaging with anybody. I was kind of just left to do my thing. So really, the notes that I have and the actions I've taken are really only from the first half of my day. I made sure that I was very open and engaging with everybody. Gosh, it makes it, the way I've written this makes it sound like I'm just this sort of hermit crab. It wasn't that I wasn't ever approachable, it's just that I could have been much more approachable. I could have been somebody that put a lot more interest in the people that I was working with and actually trying to engage and find out more about the people that I don't work with directly in the same department on a day-to-day basis, but I always walk by and I always see, and we're always kind of getting in each other's way, and not just sort of not just acknowledge each other, but actually have something to talk about with them. So I do believe that today it was very clear that being much more open, I was able to actually have a bit more of a personal connection, much more of a personal working relationship with somebody that I had seen and I'd worked around for quite a few months, and we never actually properly spoke. Whereas today I made sure that I kind of went up to them and had a proper discussion with them. Whereas in the past, I never would have. In the past, I actually, and something else I will probably talk about in another video, I just don't make enough eye contact with people. I don't know why. When I talk to somebody, I look down. You know? It's like I'll talk to them and I'll start talking to them, and then I look down for some reason. And I think part of that's got to do with the fact that when I watch movies or TV shows, I will always watch the subtitles. So I've got to actually remove them from whenever I do watch anything, whether it's just anything on a streaming platform or anything on TV and there's subtitles, I got to turn them off. Because I think what I'm doing is, instead of actually wanting to engage in a very sociable way when I talk to somebody, I'm not. And so instead of just trying to hear what they say, I need to show that I'm present with them. That's something that I definitely will make sure that tomorrow I do work on. I definitely made sure that I was the first person to really instigate having a really proper discussion. And when I say discussion, I mean personal things, not too personal, but enough that's appropriate for like a working relationship. And I just had to, for some reason, I'm not sure why, but whenever I'd sort of meet somebody new, my thought wouldn't go straight to wanting to get to know them, when in the past it always was the case. I don't know why. As soon as I became an adult, I just sort of I just closed myself off. And yeah, so I sort of made a point to myself that I actually made sure I stopped and thought about things I could ask to get to know the person, because I was actually genuinely interested. Whereas in the past, I think because I was so uncertain with myself, I didn't know how I could really have a two-way conversation, which is, a conversation should be a two-way street. And because that was my intention going in, it was just a lot easier for me to be able to be open enough to want to understand, to bring that in to myself, as opposed to before being so guarded that I don't even know what it is I'm trying to get out of that relationship or get out of that conversation, that discussion, that meeting and engagement with that person. So yeah, and the thing I definitely made sure I put a note to myself was that I still have work to do. Like, this is a work in progress, and I will make sure that I do keep it up tomorrow when I'm back at work. Yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna really talk about with that. But I actually think that the idea of, well, actually questioning why it is that I'm not making eye contact like I know I should, because I was having a discussion with a colleague that I work very close, person that I work with very closely at work, and this person is really great to sort of work with. I always enjoy having a discussion with them, and we were talking and we were making eye contact, and for some reason I just kind of looked down, and I could see I could hear myself going like, "What are you doing, Max? Like, like, why are you doing that?" It was in no way confrontational. There was no disagreement, no argument. We were just having a conversation about our work. And I don't know why. And I think, having just pondered and questioned that I'm not being open with that person. I wasn't somebody that was present and actually wanting to be aware, and it sounds a little bit corny to say, but awake for that conversation. My head's somewhere else, or I'm so blocked off that there isn't really anything for me to want to bring in. So while you bring it in, I want to shut it down. I will play into that a little bit, because I'm finding that probably half of the things that are of concern, that are very questionable in my behavior and my actions, which in some ways, unfortunately, I believe don't put me in the most, in the best limelight, in the light that I know I should be envisioned in. God, that sounds a little bit obnoxious, doesn't it? But hopefully that makes some sense. By actually questioning these things, whereas before I just kind of accepted it and went, or I would just go on the service level, go, oh, well, I don't like this. Oh, that's a bummer. And that's actually going to be part of the thing that I get into next in this video, the thing that I said I was going to talk about yesterday, the thing that I wanted to make sure that I made this video about. But by actually questioning this and being transparent and openly, intentionally trying to be translucent with seeing through myself, That's really all I had to do. But I found that in the past I just wasn't. And so I'm very thankful that I'm doing this for myself. If anybody's watching this and you're enjoying it, cool, great, thank you. If not, I'm going to keep making these. It is what it is. It is what it is. Now, I said that in the video that I made yesterday, and I caught myself, I stopped myself as I said that, and I really questioned and pondered and thought about that. Why am I saying that? Why do I say it? And is it any good for me to say? If you want to say it, it is what it is, right? But I stopped myself because for the first time, having said that, I actually was very present with how that made me feel. I don't like saying that. I don't like saying that phrase. I never like saying that phrase, and I realized that the only time I ever say that phrase is when I want to say it the least. And yeah, I'm very glad. I caught myself actually in the last video as I was recording yesterday's video and going, why am I saying that? Like that feels wrong to say. And in the car today on my lunch break, as I was sort of putting in my notes about today's video notes and what I want to talk about, and my work in progress, trying to make sure that I am more open and engaged at work, to make sure that I am trying to remove this actually ridiculous perception of who I am, this woeful part of my ego that I want to really just not have be part of me anymore. As I was making those notes before that, I just sort of started thinking about this concept, this idea, and I didn't really want to. I remember as I scheduled some time on my break. I was like, okay, I'll actually make today's video notes, and I'll go through it. I'll jot something up so that when I get home, I'll actually, I can work from there. But pretty much in the car, I had all the notes ready. It's funny how that works. You want to do something the least, and then after you do it, you're like, oh, that actually was not that hard. It's actually, it was very much easier said than done, or almost easier done than just said. And I didn't know if I wanted to talk about that statement, because I didn't know if that was something that at that point in time I felt really afflicted by. But then I went into my car, had some water, and I sort of just jotted down. I asked myself, is it a bad saying? And then I thought about it for a minute, and the things that I jotted down and I pointed out to myself was, I say it when I can't change something, or I refuse to make a change. So it's something that I would say at a time when I would either watch something, I'd be doing something, I'd be at work out, and something would happen, and I'd say, look, it is what it is. Because there's nothing that I'm going to do about it. Either there's nothing I have any control over, or it's something I don't want to put the effort in to actually change. Yeah, and I never like saying it out loud, or in front of others, to others, or to myself. And I realized that I treat it like a defeatist saying. I say it when it's like I can't do anything about it. But it's not me going, well, look, if I were to sort of go through sort of a very basic system in my head saying, look, there's this issue, this problem's arisen, I don't want to actually do anything about it because of this reason, therefore I won't. That's actually healthy, or that's at least somewhat reasonable. But what I realize I'm doing with that saying, with that statement, is when I say that statement and how I use it in my life, I say the statement, or before I do, I have the problem, and I go, and I basically, before I even question, is there something I want to do about it, and or why, I just immediately shut it down and say, well, this problem, nothing can be done. And I have to just embrace those consequences. And yeah, what it is me telling myself is I can't do anything about it. That's life, instead of using that same kind of saying. And then I make myself small by saying that. I say that there's nothing that I have any ability to do. There's nothing I have any responsibility. There's nothing I have any capacity There's no capacity in me. There's no will that can make a change, to see that problem be resolved, to see that thing that is an issue for me not be an issue anymore. And I'm selling myself short. By doing that, I am diminishing my ability to believe I can do something, and I am decaying this perception of myself. It is actually, now that I think about it, growing this attachment to the thing that I want to get rid of the most. I make myself small. I give up control of the situation, having made myself a mental part of it when I wasn't even a part of it in the first place. That's the key thing. And I realize I do this when I'm out socializing, when I am at work, when I'm watching social media, when I'm on social media, when I unfortunately find myself stumbling on some content about news, or the news gets turned on, I end up seeing things that might not be that good, and I go, it is what it is. And I come to internalize the issue. I hold it in. That's the problem. When I say it is what it is, and then I just try to move on, I'm not actually solving it. It ends up being added on to everything else that reminds me that I haven't actually done what I need to get through and actually make a change and actually make a real transition and a real step and progress to go from there's an issue to legitimately resolving it and removing it from myself. What I'm doing when I say this statement, for myself at least, problem, and I just take it. It is what it is. Okay. When in actual fact, I need to be letting it go. I need to let it move, but it doesn't get past because I'm not actually deploying the proper sequence, the proper sort of mental system, the mental mapping to get that crap out. And so it's just kind of it's staying in. And every time I say that saying, and I get this sort of, every time that I know I don't actually like it, that's what's happening. But I do find that in some or in many, or actually maybe at this point, for what I don't even realize, it may be in all cases, I end up internalizing the issue, and then my inability to be able to deal with the issue, to solve it, because maybe it's something that I literally cannot do. There might be like geopolitical, sociopolitical things that I have literally no control over. That might be something that I'm seeing as an issue. Or other times where it is just simply me going, other times where there's an issue that happens, or some problem arises, and I just am too lazy to make any change. And me not actually making a change over enacting a change, because actually adding that extra system is so, there's this uncertainty of how much more mental energy it'll take. My mind is sort of putting in this defense mechanism saying, look, don't exert more energy than you need to survive, and just accept what you've always done, or accept what you've always done. And what ends up happening is, it seems that as I internalize this, and I do not do anything about it, I take on all of the burden, I take on all of the anguish, I take on all the blame to myself, when it probably wasn't even my problem in the first place to begin with. I think I'm going to end this video here, and then I'll make another video tomorrow. I'll keep working on this work in progress, and I will have another idea, another concept, another belief or concern that I'm finding that I want to just talk about and get through down the barrel of this lens. Okay. Well, until tomorrow, take care.